Sunday, we have Wolves against Man City as a 2 p.m. kickoff at Molineux. The hosts sit rock bottom of the league, 1 draw, 6 losses. It's been a nightmare start for them. However, it's worth noting that they've had an extremely difficult run of fixtures, playing the likes of Villa, Liverpool, Chelsea, Newcastle, Arsenal and Brighton, which is 6 of the top 7. And the other game is Forest away, so very, very tough fixtures on the surface, and I do expect a regression. I don't think the performances have been great, but I don't think they've been as bad as the results suggest. So, as I say, maybe waiting for a bit of a regression for Wolves. Don't think it will come on Sunday, but again, just want to sort of watch out for. Man City sit in second, 1 point off Liverpool. They most recently beat Fulham 3-2. However, the visitors had plenty of clear-cut chances, mostly through Adama Traore. I think City really struggled to contain him. And they have just generally struggled in sustaining pressure without the likes of Rodri and De Bruyne. Looking a bit poor in transition as well. So, something to keep an eye on for this game. I think for the injury report, Mosquera is the most notable sort of recent addition for Wolves. Other than that, I think we're expecting quite a defensive approach. Potentially 3 centre-backs and sort of wing-backs formation for Wolves. But I think given how Fulham was so dangerous on the break, I think Wolves are a similar sort of matchup in that sense for City, given how they have quite powerful runners, powerful carriers through the likes of Mateus Cunha, Ryan Aït-Nouri, Bellegarde if he starts. So I can really see Wolves sort of causing problems here. Rodri and De Bruyne remain as the key absentees for City. But I think Pep Guardiola's been a bit more unpredictable in his lineups with his team selection in recent game weeks. So it's a bit difficult to sort of suggest how they start. But I would imagine it's Doku and Savinho on the flanks, with sort of Walker starting over Rico Lewis to just help sort of contain Aït-Nouri. I think you need a more physical presence for this game against Wolves. So angle 1 is for Gvardiol to have a shot, which is priced at 1.5, top price with William Hill. Obviously too short as a single, so I'm pairing that with João Gomez to make 2 or more fouls, and the double comes out at 2.5 with William Hill. Again, I expect Wolves to low block in this game. If we look into their head-to-head data last season against Man City, they had just 5 shots across the 2 games, so ridiculously low. And I don't think there's any reason for Gary O'Neill to sort of chuck away that blueprint. I think we see a very similar setup for Wolves. And because of that, I think we sort of see Man City dominate in the final third. I think we see the likes of Gvardiol play with a bit more freedom and sort of more willingness to get into the box. I think whenever he plays sort of low block side, we see Gvardiol sort of operate in the sort of left half space, and because he's right-footed, he sort of naturally tends to find himself in quite good shooting positions from distance, which obviously he does tend to take up as well. Since Rodri's injury, we've obviously seen the role of Gvardiol increase a lot more, sort of parallel to how he played towards the end of last season. So plays very attacking, gets into the box, and he's obviously a massive set-piece threat. If we look into his shot data, he's actually had a shot in 5 out of 6 of his last games. Interestingly, he's actually had a shot on target in all of those as well. So you can see 3 shots, 1-2, 1-2. Shot on target is landed in all of those as well. So as a potential lean, you can back Gvardiol to have a shot on target at 2.37 with Bet365, or top price, unsurprisingly, Unibet at 2.8. So I think that's a sort of good starting point. Too short as a single at 1.5, but looking into sort of João Gomez, we've seen a bit of a slight change since the sort of introduction of Andre in midfield alongside him. I think what's interesting is how his role is adapted. So in the first start for Andre, we saw João Gomez play in a bit more of a deeper role as a 6 in this game against Newcastle, and obviously didn't make a foul. But since then, we've sort of seen a more expected approach from Gary O'Neill, in which Andre has been the sort of lone six with Lamina and João Gomez in front of him, and that playing in that role gives João Gomez a bit more freedom to be more intense in his press, sort of look to win the ball back higher up the field, and because of that, he's sort of seen an uptick in fouls since that game. So if we exclude this Newcastle game, because he was in a different role, you can see his foul data is pretty ridiculous. 2+ fouls landed in the vast majority of games this season. Again, with Wolves expected to deploy a low block, I wouldn't be surprised to see if Andre drops out of the starting 11 or João Gomez drops out of the starting 11 in favour of a centre-back. So maybe one to just keep an eye on. But 2+ fouls has landed in 6 out of 8 games, one of them being in that Newcastle game, as I said. If we look into his head-to-head data against Man City last season, he made 8 fouls in the 2 league games, with 4 fouls in each of them. So, again, expecting a sort of similar approach from Gary O'Neill. I think João Gomez is a target for fouls, as always, and I really like that double to start things off. Next angle for me is for Man City to make over 12.5 tackles, which on the surface just looks a very, very low line. With Bet365, it's priced at 1.9. Looking into the head-to-head data last season, Man City made 15 tackles in both games against Wolves. And when you just think about how Wolves approached that game, they were quite reliant on using their main dribblers, so Matheus Cunha, Ryan Nouri, sort of progress the ball up the field as opposed to playing long balls. And I think because of that, naturally lends itself to thinking about tackles for Man City. Obviously, Man City have lacked a bit of control without Rodri, as mentioned, and they've actually hit this line in 4 out of 5 league games in which Rodri has not started. So I think, just because of that, on the surface, it just looks an extremely low line, given how Wolves are sort of expected to approach this game, given the data from last season. So I do think that's a nice selection to take advantage of. Again, also given the head-to-head data. Next angle is for Kovacic to commit a foul at 1.57, which again just looks way too big on the surface, considering Kovacic will be the sort of defensive midfielder against the Wolves side, who generally are very direct in their approach in terms of dribblers. It's landed in both head-to-head games last season, and now we see sort of Kovacic take up a more defensive role, so really like it. He's made a foul in 3 out of his last 4 games for Man City. Again, 1.57, probably a bit too short to back as a single. So to get the odds up, what I would suggest is to pair it with something like a Haaland shot on target, something very sort of bog standard, something quite basic. And doing that, you can actually get the odds up to 1.8, which is backable and pretty nice price actually when you consider that Haaland has unsurprisingly had a shot on target in every game so far this season, excluding the Community Shield against Man United. He's been in ridiculous goal scoring form, with 2+ shots on target landing in 8 out of 9, and he's already scored 11 goals this season. So I think if you're going to target anyone, it has to be Haaland. I also really like his matchup against a Wolves side who have been really, really poor defensively. Obviously, mentioned that Mosquera will be out, so we're likely to get a centre-back pairing of Craig Dawson and Bueno. Not ideal for Gary O'Neill. And the last time Haaland faced Wolves at the Etihad, obviously this is not the Etihad, but he scored 4 goals against Wolves, so it's a team that he probably looked forward to facing, and you wouldn't put it past him scoring in this game. Again, just to mention a sort of top price from Unibet, won't be sort of posted by me, but Unibet are massive on Haaland. They've actually got him 1.72 to score any time, and the same price for 2 or more shots on target, which I think if you have access to a Unibet account or BetMGM account, it's a price that you should really be taking advantage of. I think it's much shorter elsewhere, and rightfully so. So